Life, wisdom.
Hello everybody, this is Dr. Eccles. On our first few videos we talked about subluxation, we talked about symptoms. Now we're going to talk about the actual degenerative process that takes place when a subluxation is present. And I've got the lovely Miss Karina here with me, and she's going to be helping me with this. And Miss Karina, I would like for you to go ahead and just read this first paragraph here for me.
Like the mineral deposits in a cave, if given enough time, adjacent spinal bones can fuse together.
Excellent. And then go ahead and read right here.
Regardless of age, when spinal damage goes uncorrected, the body deposits calcium on the surface of adjacent bones that aren't moving properly.
Exactly. So what does all that mean to you?
If you're not having the full motion and flexibility in your joints and in your spine like you're supposed to, then over time the bones will actually grow together. That's exactly right.
And we showed some of that in the initial video. We showed that, and you actually got to see the bones as they kind of fused together. And they didn't move so good, did they?
Right. They completely lost their movement completely.
Right. So how would we go about correcting these subluxations? How would we go about doing that? Let's look at that. This is the timeline of your care. And if we take the initial intensive phase of your care and we add it to the rehabilitative phase of your care, that is equal to what we call corrective care. Corrective care can last anywhere from about a year to maybe 2.5 years, depending on how serious the condition is. Okay? So this is a timeline of your treatment, and I would like for you to go ahead and look along this top line and let me know where along that line are your symptoms gone. Where do you start feeling a lot better?
About a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, just, is that it? Where does it say?
Symptoms gone.
Exactly.
Here.
So once your symptoms are gone, are you finished with your corrective care? No, and that's very important. I'll tell you why. For a long time, I didn't ever explain this to my patients, and they just assumed that once the pain was gone, they were well, right? Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and so if they discontinued their care there, what do you think might be the result?
They end up with the pain coming back, or
yeah,
even worse?
That's exactly right. It not only does it come back, but sometimes, depending on how long they've been away, it can actually get worse because of the degeneration process that we described earlier. So yeah, you're not finished with your corrective care once your symptoms are gone. Now, look along this bottom line here and tell me where along this line is your spine actually stabilized.
Getting closer to the end of the treatment.
Exactly. Now you've got beautiful teeth, I've noticed. Did you have braces on your teeth?
I did.
Yeah. And how long did you have to wear those braces?
A couple of years.
Yeah, several years. And when you got the braces off, were your teeth straight?
They were straight, and then I wore retainers for a couple more years.
Yeah, exactly. So when you got your braces off, your teeth were straight, but you had to wear a retainer. Why?
So that the bones and everything would actually correct inside of my mouth.
That's right.
Bones.
Because, even though your teeth were straight, they weren't stabilized yet, were they?
Right.
So we had to keep that on there to stabilize them and let it lock down and become stable. Otherwise, what would have happened?
Your teeth go back.
Your teeth would go all the way back. And I know this is true because I've had some of my patients tell me they did not wear their retainer, and so they had to start all over again. So if you discontinued your care prematurely before your spine was actually corrected, what do you think might be the result?
That would go back to the same pain you had.
That's right. You would eventually go back to where you were, and possibly even worse because of the degeneration process. Okay? Wow. So, Karina, this is what we call the subluxation degeneration chart.
Okay.
This is what a normal neck looks like, a normal mid-back, and a normal lower back. This is phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 of subluxation degeneration. So the word physiology here basically means what's going on inside your body. And the word prognosis means what kind of results you could expect from with your care. Okay? So if you wouldn't mind, just read physiology there for me.
Physiology. Normal curves with equal disc spacing. No visible signs of degeneration.
Very good. Were you aware that your neck should have a normal curvature in it? A nice curvature in it?
Only because I've watched your videos.
Okay.
Seen your,
very good.
Your ideal spines.
So does this look like it has a nice curvature in it here? Mm-hmm. Exactly. So let me show you why that's so important. This is a shot put. It's heavy. Don't drop it on your toe. But actually this is only about half as heavy as your head. All right. So I want you to bring we're going to pretend that this is your neck right here and this is your head. And if your neck has a nice curvature in it there, you could probably sit there and hold that for a long time without any problem. Isn't that right?
Sure.
Yeah. But now you hold on to this and I'll help you. Then now let's straighten that curvature in your neck.
It's a lot more difficult.
Much more difficult. What's happening to these muscles here in your neck?
They're really straining just to hold on.
They're very much straining just to hold on. So when you don't have a curvature in your neck and your head is way out forward, what do you think is going to happen to all these muscles here in your spine?
Really tense.
You get very tense. And how many times, I've heard it a million times, have people go, oh, I carry all my tension.
Carry it all right here.
I carry all my tension here. Like, I don't know what that means other than like, I take it all and I just carry it right there. But they don't have this information about that. When we start to correct the spine and we get that normal curvature, what do you think happens to all these muscles? They just relax because that curvature can support that. But when we've lost it, it's a strain just to hold the head into the right position. Mm-hmm. See how important having a curve there in your neck is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what a normal curve is. Now, do you notice on here these little dark spaces between there? That's the disc space. Okay? Yes. And do they look nice and equal to you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what this is, normal disc spacing. So the little spacer between the discs, the vertebra is nice and equal and no problems. Now, look over here at this one. Do you see how it's all kind of grown together and a lot of degeneration? It looks real.
There's hardly any space at all.
Yeah, and do you see any of that here?
Mm-mm.
No, and that's because there's no visible signs of degeneration present in a normal neck.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, let's say that you've lost the normal curvature in your neck, and your neck is real straight like this one. Now you've moved away from normal, and you're already into phase 1 of degeneration. Okay. Let's figure out what that's all about. So, if you wouldn't mind, read the physiology for phase 1.
Misalignment and malfunction with soft tissue damage and nerve irritation.
Yes. So if having a curvature is correct alignment, then not having a curvature would be
misalignment.
Misalignment, exactly. And when we check range of motion, we want to make sure that the person can fully move from each side to side in the correct manner. And that would be correct function. So if a subluxation was limiting their range of motion, mm-hmm. that wouldn't be correct function anymore. It would be
misalignment, malfunction.
Malfunction, exactly, exactly. And over here, if we started to have interference to the nerves, what do you think would happen to all of these different systems and organs and cells out here?
They would all be affected, even your other organ systems. And especially looking at the neck, you see that's your brain, your eyes, your nose, your sinuses, your vocal cords.
Yeah,
that would be affected.
It absolutely can affect all that, because as long as we don't have any interference, we have healthy function. But if we start having interference, then we have
healthy or unhealthy dysfunction.
Unhealthy function, exactly right. So go ahead and read the prognosis for me for phase 1.
Return to near normal may be expected with appropriate chiropractic care.
Yeah, if we catch this early enough, we can actually return the spine to almost normal, which is good. But let's say the person, for whatever reason, did not get it corrected. Maybe they didn't know or whatever. What would you think would happen if they didn't get it corrected in phase 1?
It would just continue to worsen and the bones would grow together, so you'd lose the space, you would lose the motion, Yeah, disc narrowing and calcium deposits.
Yeah, you would move over into the second phase of degeneration, okay? And that's part of it. So what is physiology? Read the physiology for phase 2, excuse me.
Disc narrowing, calcium deposition, bone spurs, and nerve irritation.
Perfect. Now, if you'll look right here at that little disc space there, does that look like it's nice and equal and thick like it is over here?
No, they're already starting to like completely lose the spaces. They're getting unequal.
Yes, and that's what that is, unequal disc spacing. Now, do you see that big bony spur that's growing down right there?
Yes.
That's what calcium deposition in bone spurs actually looks like.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a real deal. And then we've got nerve irritation. So if over here in your cervical spine, the bones were actually starting to fuse together, what do you think would happen to all of the cells, tissues, and organs that these nerves feed out to?
You would have inflammation, potential pain, or just malfunctioning of whatever that organ system was that was affected.
Yeah, it wouldn't function very well, would it? And I've noticed a lot of people, you know, a lot of different things start to happen, but they never really attribute it back to maybe a problem in their spine because they don't have this information.
Right.
So, read the prognosis there for the phase 2 of degeneration.
Slowing or stopping may be expected with appropriate care.
That's right. So, what is the difference between the prognosis in phase 2 and the prognosis in phase 1?
In phase 1, you can expect to return back to normal or close to normal, but with phase 2, you're looking at maybe you can slow or stop the degeneration, but not necessarily regain where you were before.
Excellent. You get an A+. So that's perfect. Yeah, so we don't really like to get to phase 2 because we can't really return you to normal. All we can do at that point is probably slow this down or stop it, but the damage has already been done, right? So if you don't get it corrected in phase 2, what do you think might happen?
You go to phase 3.
You go to phase 3, and that's the final phase. So let's go ahead and read the physiology for that.
Joint immobilization, bone fusion, nerve atrophy, and scar tissue.
Yeah, so if somebody's having trouble moving their head all to the full extent, think what it would be like if the bones were completely fused together. How do you think their movement would be then?
They'd have complete limited motion.
Very much so. And I've unfortunately had patients that came into my office and asked for my help, but we were really unable to help them at that point because there are no more joints. They're completely fused together.
Wow.
Now, so that's what joint immobilization and bone fusion is. And of course, if you had your whole neck was fused, the nerves atrophy or they wither away, and then every single cell, tissue, and organ that those feed out to, or what do you think is going to happen to the function of those?
They're going to be dysfunctioning.
It's going to be malfunctioning for sure at that point. And then we notice those knots and stuff that we have in the back due to the muscle spasms that we talked about earlier. Unfortunately, if those make it all the way to phase 3, those turn into scar tissue. And that's pretty much irreversible at that point. Okay? So that's what a chiropractor does. He finds subluxation and he prevents it from going on to degenerate. And in a minute, we'll show you a little bit about how that looks when we go ahead and make that adjustment. I would encourage each of you who are having problems to consult with a chiropractor to find out if you have subluxation, even whether you're feeling fine or not, to find out if you have that so you can stop this process before it even gets started. So, when a person has a subluxation, that is one or more of these joints being out of the normal place, causing nervous system interference. We also discovered that it causes problems with the muscles and the other soft tissues. It also restricts the motion and the function of the joint itself. Chiropractic helps to restore that normal function, take off the nerve interference that's there, and help to balance these muscles and soft tissues. And this is what an adjustment actually looks like. And I'm feeling down through Karina's neck, and I'm feeling for a subluxation. And I've taken care of her before, so she's in pretty good shape. But right there, can you feel that little spot right there? Okay? So what we will do is we'll just gently move this over and reposition that joint quickly, painlessly, and without too much effort as well. That felt pretty good, yes? Very good. So what that does is it actually helps to restore the normal function to that joint so that it doesn't tend to go out of place and start to fuse together and have that whole host of other problems occur, like the muscle spasms and that kind of thing. I get a lot of patients to tell me they carry all their stress in their shoulders, but they don't have the information that I just gave you about subluxation. Turn this way here, real easy. And there you go. That sound that we hear is not anything breaking or popping. It's actually just air that's escaping from the joint there. And when we hear that, it's actually a very good sign because it means that the joint can be moved and it can be corrected. If the person was to wait too long and the joints would all fuse together in their neck or become so stiff that the doctor couldn't move them, their prognosis or the end result would probably not be as good. So that's the end of this video. Thank you for watching. On the next video, we're going to go into a little bit more detail about subluxations and find out what some of the other problems associated with that are.